Hey everyone, and welcome back. Okay, let's dive into this because today we are unpacking a really alarming shift in modern media, the total narrative erosion of the animal documentary. If you've been watching recent nature productions and felt like, they've traded actual, authentic observation for these chaotic, heavily staged spectacles, well, you are definitely not alone. In today's explainer, we're going to map out exactly how this genre completely lost its way. Let's get into it.
So, to really understand the depth of this crisis, we've got to look at the status quo of production sets right now. Our source text highlights this bizarre normalization of absolute absurdity within the industry. It literally describes chaotic filming environments that aren't even seen as weird anomalies anymore. They're just shrugged off as, quote, a typical Monday morning. Just think about that for a second. Right? When documentary makers start viewing complete and utter chaos as a banal routine, the whole fundamental purpose of the genre is basically toast. What was supposed to be this unbiased look into natural habitats has mutated into an aggressive narrative arms race.
And I mean, what exactly does this typical Monday morning actually look like on screen? Well, it looks like a completely unrestrained spectacle. The analysis points to this one chaotic chase scene involving a white rabbit and a gray horse. But because the horse is visually kind of dull, they artificially compensate for it by aggressively using spurs. I mean, we're supposed to be observing living creatures here, not forcefully manufacturing drama. And it just escalates from there. Suddenly we've got SUVs, tractors, and literal combine harvesters plowing right through the natural environment. But honestly, the wildest part? The text notes this total collapse of professional distance, where the audience themselves actively joins the chase, riding in on cows and pigs. I mean, no way, right? The boundary between observer and actor just completely dissolves into this systematic mess. It's way less of a documentary and more of an uncontrolled fairground attraction.
Now, what's really interesting about this concept is how the author diagnoses this exact visual failure. They use a brilliant term for it: technogenic hybridization. This is basically what happens when you forcefully integrate industrial, non-field machines like, heavy combine harvesters or sleek SUVs straight into delicate ecological narratives. When you put a pig in an SUV, you aren't just making some quirky creative choice. You are actively destroying the audiovisual coherence of the entire piece. The whole genre just completely loses its credibility. It shatters that illusion of nature and bluntly reminds us, the viewers, that we are watching an artificially constructed, highly manipulated show.
But here's the thing. This external chaos inevitably bleeds inward, and that leads to a severe neglect of the inner structure of the actors themselves. We are literally witnessing the rise of the burned-out protagonist. Without any consistent character development, we're just left with this superficial sensory overload, and the actors, well, they're left utterly devoid of purpose.
The text actually provides a remarkably vivid and frankly hilarious image of this psychological detonation. Just picture this: the main actor, a bunny, lying in the grass, casually chewing on a blade, paws crossed behind its head. While the entire production around him is desperately trying to project this high-stakes suspense, the star of the show has completely checked out. We're talking about a full-blown existential crisis here. Yes, the physical capability to perform that dramatic final sprint is there, easily accessible if needed. But the motivational depth is just gone. The animal actor has essentially become an exhausted Hollywood star, totally disconnected from the senseless circus happening all around them.
So we really have to ask the critical question: why are the stars checking out? This isn't just a matter of a tired animal, folks. It points to a massive structural failure within the industry's storytelling. There's a categorical collapse of narrative logic happening here. The industry is suffering from this massive identity crisis, basically because it treats its protagonists as completely interchangeable props, just sliding them between different species and technical gadgets on a total whim.
And this brilliantly illustrates the vast canyon between what we actually expect as viewers and the bizarre reality television delivers. Think about it. We tune in expecting credible, species-specific roles, but instead we get absurd role swaps, like a bunny driving a combine harvester. We expect a consistent narrative flow. Reality gives us systematic chaos, with actors literally crashing into one another. We want logical interaction with the natural environment, right? But we're fed technologized performances, like a cow riding a tractor. And finally, and honestly most importantly, we look for emotional depth and motivation, but the reality is driven by a pure, simplistic reward logic, something the source refers to as the carrot business.
Let's unpack that carrot business metaphor for a second, because it is at the absolute core of this crisis. On one side of the spectrum, we have the original goal of the whole genre: intellectual ambition.
That represents authentic observation, a true documentary ethos, and a genuine curiosity about the natural world. But on the other side, we have what it's tragically devolved into, the carrot business. Economic pressures have forced a level of commercialization that views content merely as a vehicle for cheap short-term entertainment. The carrot business reduces the entire production to a primitive stimulus-response logic. The actors, and frankly the producers too, are motivated by nothing more than the immediate material reward, the carrot. When motivation shrinks down to this level, intellectual ambition is completely pushed out, transforming a beautiful nature documentary into cheap show business.
Let's move to the next point and see how this builds. Because our demotivated bunny, chewing grass and pondering his existence, isn't just throwing in the towel. Actually, this inner withdrawal is the spark for a strategic flight forward. The protagonist's desire to quit and start a new, higher-quality production company highlights a massive, glaring gap in the market. There is a huge demand out there for premium, authentic animal films, a demand that simply cannot be met by the current crop of chaotic bunny shows. The industry needs a total strategic realignment, starting exactly where the current system is failing, restoring its narrative integrity.
To actually achieve this, the author provides 3 clear, actionable recommendations for media creators to save the genre. First up, restore species-appropriate role biographies. Basically, actors can no longer be abused as mechanical, interchangeable pieces in alien settings. The narrative absolutely has to grow organically from the natural behavior of the animals. Number 2, eliminate technogenic props. If they want to win back the genre's credibility, there has to be a strict ban on heavy agricultural machinery and motorized chase units in these depictions. Seriously, keep the SUVs out of the forest. And finally, step 3, professionalize character motivation. The narratives have to evolve way past that primitive carrot principle. They need deeper, comprehensible storylines that actually allow us, the viewers, to identify with the subject once again.
If the industry ignores these steps, well, the consequences are terminal. So the crucial point is this: audiences are not infinitely patient. The transformation of nature documentation into a purely monetary, nonsensical spectacle will ultimately lead to only one logical viewer reaction: turning off the screen. The receptive numbing that's caused by these interchangeable roles and the systematic chaos completely degrades the core brand of the documentary. Without a hard return to audiovisual coherence, the entire genre is steering toward complete and total irrelevance.
Which leaves us with a really pressing final question. Will the industry recognize its own identity crisis in time to restore its narrative integrity and embrace authentic observation once more? Or will the relentless pursuit of the carrot business drive the genre so far into absurdity that audiences simply make the ultimate choice and turn off the screen for good? It's a fascinating crossroads for media right now, and one that should for sure fundamentally change how you view the next documentary you watch. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and remember, always keep questioning what you see on the screen.